Kubernetes is a container orchestration platform. It is not specific to Docker. In Kubernetes, you can also host other containers like LCX or Mesos, these kind of containers. I'll be able to manage that using the Kubernetes. Okay. So Kubernetes was an application basically developed in Go language, and it was developed by Google, and in their data center, they use this extensively. Okay. And around the year 2014 or 2015, they have donated it to the Cloud Native Compute Foundation. You remember, I have used the term Cloud Native Compute. So there is a community which manages that. So for the community, it has been given as a donation. So since then, it is being available as a open source solution, and everyone can contribute to the Kubernetes. And lots of people jumped into this application, and they have made it very robust and a very effective platform to manage the containerized application. Okay, and so before we go into the okay, so the first advantage of Kubernetes is it can automatically deploy your application. When I talk about deployment, we talk about deployment strategies. So when I want to deploy application, there are multiple deployment strategies are followed. Okay, the one is called, which we normally do it on the environment, it's called all-in-one deployment. That means you have application, you take a downtime, okay, you bring down the application and you apply the latest version of the code in the environment, and you will push the binary file to the respective target server. Okay, here the problem is that you need a downtime to make changes to your application. Okay, in the modern application, people doesn't want to have downtime in the application. That is where there is one more deployment strategy comes in called rolling update. Okay, rolling update will be will work in a horizontally scaled application. Like for example, in the diagram, I have an application where it has a load balancer, and the load balancer is pointed to 3 application servers. Okay, if I want to deploy the application here, okay, so I will take one server out of the load balancer, deploy the latest version of the application, okay, and I will add it to the load balancer. Like that, I will be keep on repeating that until the new code is available in all the application servers. Okay, this strategy is called rolling update deployment. Okay, so there are a couple of issues in the rolling deployment. One is you will have a scenario where your customer may be either forwarded to the new version of the code, or some customers may be in the old version of the code. Like you may have a scenario where some customers are pointed to new version and some customers are pointed to the older version. Okay, this may cause some issues in the application whenever you are having a changes in the database, right? When there is a change in the database, either the new version or old version of the application will not work. So you will have a trouble in deploying these kind of applications in the rolling update fashion. Okay, and another scenario is if there is an issue with that application, okay, and if it is visible, if you just think of a case where the bug is identified after the deployment, the bug will be visible to the end user, and it is going to bring a reputation loss for your organization. So you will not be able to completely sure that, okay, this application is going to work fine on the production. These are all the 2 problems with the rolling deployment. That is where the blue-green strategy comes into picture. Okay, so blue-green strategy is kind of a strategy which is being followed in the existing organization with the help of a DR. So I have seen organization who has configured, they will have 2 environments. One is the primary environment and another one is a DR environment. What they will do, whenever there is a deployment happening, they will deploy the application on the DR environment and make the DR environment as production, and the production environment will be converted to a DR environment. Okay, this is how I have seen people are using the blue-green strategy in the production DR setup. But in microservices world, this is going to be much easier. So what I will do, I will create a copy of the service while the existing service is still serving the application. So think of that The older environment, we will call it as a blue environment, and we will create a new environment called green environment. That green environment, I will be tested and I will ensure that everything is working fine. Then I will map my load balancer from the blue environment to the green environment. This is how people used to follow a blue-green deployment strategy in the microservices world. Okay, here the advantage I'm going to get is if there is any database limitation, that is not going to impact me, because either the customer will be in the blue environment or in the green environment. So I will avoid this database related issue. And before deploying the application into production, I will get a chance to test the application end to end before exposing it to the end customer. Okay, this is the advantage of the blue-green environment. We will see a practical example of how to do a blue-green deployment in the Kubernetes land. Okay, so this is the blue-green deployment strategy. Canary deployment. Okay, canary deployment is a strategy where you have deployed the application where both older version and newer version will be available, and you are allowed to redirect only a part of the customer to the new version. Okay, and you can see the transactions and everything is going fine. Then you can like change the percentage. Like first it will be 75% to old, 25% to new. Then you can change it to 50-50, and then 25-75, and then all the 100 requests can be forwarded to the green environment. So this kind of deployment strategy is called as a canary deployment. Okay, so this gives you a more control so that you can ensure that the new application is working without any issues. Okay, then you will be able to forward the customers there. So this is the another deployment strategy called canary deployment. Kubernetes allows you to choose these kind of deployment strategies. Okay, and another advantage in Kubernetes is it can manage your container lifecycle. Like basically, when you deploy a application, let's say microservice in the Kubernetes, okay, there first you will create a deployment, right? So the deployment will create something called as a replica set. Okay, that means imagine for my UI layer in my microservice, I may have three layers, right? UI layer, business logic layer, and database layer. In the UI layer, I want 2 containers to be running. Okay, then I can say in the replica set, in the configuration, I will say 2 should be running. Okay, by any chance or because of some issue, if one of the container is going down, Kubernetes can automatically bring up the other containers. So it will ensure that 2 containers are running for this particular service. It can do that for you. So it's kind of an auto healing. So if a particular container goes down, it can bring it up for you. Okay, and it can automatically allocate storage for your containers. Okay, in Docker command, we have seen to how to attach a volume, right? So you can give all these instructions to the Kubernetes. Kubernetes will automatically allocate that. And also Kubernetes can also manage the network communication between the containers. Okay, Kubernetes as a network provider, which can facilitate communication within the containers and also communication from external network, or also communication to the external network via various network providers. We'll talk about that in detail in the next topic, where we are going to talk about Kubernetes networking concept. Okay, and adding to that, Kubernetes also can collect metrics from your container. Okay, what is the CPU usage? What is the memory usage? So those kind of information it can collect, and also it can collect your log files so that you can manage that. So those kind of things also Kubernetes can do. And adding to that, the major advantage with Kubernetes is Kubernetes allows you to pass instructions via API. Okay, in Kubernetes we will write all the instructions in the YAML format. We'll see in detail in the lab. So for everything you are allowed to communicate via in a programming language. So it will, so everything you do in Kubernetes can be automated. So this is one of the best advantage of the Kubernetes.